Well, everybody, the Marathon Closed Alpha is finally here. We finally get our hands on the game and we can dive head first into Tau Ceti. Hey man, what do you think you're doing? I'm filming a video. No, I mean, what do you think you're doing putting that marathon magnet on your car? Do you even run marathons? I don't. I just thought it'd be funny since we're runners in marathon. You thought it would be funny. Well, I'll tell you something. My father is a marathon runner, and I don't think he'd appreciate all of this stolen valor you're doing by putting that sticker on your car. Go take it off. Okay, Jesus, all right, I'll go take it off. I'm sorry. That's what I thought. Jeez. The nerve of some people. Over my time, in the past 2 days, not even really playing the Marathon Closed Alpha, I've played quite a few matches. Some that went really, really well, and some that went, not so well. And to start off, I want to be very clear, I am not normally an extraction shooter type person. I have roughly 40 hours in Hunt Showdown, but that's only because my younger brother is a really big fan of that game, and he carried me through most of that. I have 13 hours in Delta Force, and I can guarantee you over half of those hours are going to be from me playing in like the battlefield type mode, the conquest mode, not doing the actual extraction. I've played a bit of that, but that wasn't my bread and butter. And I have never in my life once touched Tarkov. Most times when I hear that a game is going to be an extraction shooter, I'm almost immediately just not interested anymore. That's just not really what I'm into. But however, I am a Bungie fan. I have 2,500 hours in Destiny 2, which I'm sure for some people those are rookie numbers. And I grew up playing Halo. I've been playing Bungie games for a significant portion of my life, and I almost always find a way to enjoy them. So, coming from someone who is a longtime Bungie fan, but isn't exactly into extraction shooters, I was pretty hesitant about Marathon, and I went into it with an open mind, a cautious but open mind. It's also important to note that none of my friends also got into the alpha, so it was me either running solo or with random teammates. I was actually really worried about this, to be honest, because I find games like extraction shooters are far more difficult when you're playing alone rather than with friends. I also give up pretty easily when it comes to extraction shooters because I find losing my loot really discouraging. So let's start off simple. Let's talk about the visuals. And I can't lie, I love how Marathon looks. From the first concept art they ever showed us, I thought it was incredibly appealing. I love the vibrant colors. I love the chunky cyberpunk designs and the designs of the runners and the environments. I find that it all really works well for me in particular. I just like the art style. And particularly the map Dire Marsh looks the best, and it's pretty obvious that Bungie has spent more time and more resources into getting this map looking as good as it does, because when you compare it to the other map, Perimeter's a little rough around the edges, I gotta say. I think the outdoor areas in particular, the lighting looks pretty flat. I don't really love the textures they've put on the rocks and the grass and the ground. So it's pretty obvious that that map isn't finished, and that's just not done yet. There was a moment where I got separated from my team during one of my runs. I think it was on Dire Marsh, but I could be wrong. But I was crawling through the underbelly of this like massive facility, and I was in this really tight corridor with water on the floor, and there was just this ominous ambience in the background. And I stopped and I thought, this is really immersive. I think the environment's really, really, really immersive here. Now, we all know Marathon is a PvE/VP game, but for starters, let's focus on the PvE side of things. PvE enemies are fast, dangerous, and aggressive. If you walk into a room that you didn't know there were a bunch of UESC troopers hiding in, you're probably gonna die. And I like this a lot, especially as someone who's not really into PvP games as much these days. There's risk involved in every encounter, whether that be the UESC troopers or actual player runners. There's risk involved. Some of the AI will just come up and straight up punch you in the face, or if you're running around a corner to heal, they will follow you. They're not giving you time to heal. And I think that's a good thing. Aggressive AI needs to be a thing in the PvE sphere in Marathon. Now, there isn't a ton of enemy variety in the troopers, but there is variety in their design, and I think that is really good. Once you've played long enough and you see a particular trooper on the map, you know exactly what it is without needing to ping it and read up in the top corner, hey, UASC trooper recruit, or whatever it says. And I think that's good. Clear and distinct enemy silhouettes are good game design. And also, as a side note, I hate the little ticks. There was a match where I entered some building, I don't know where I was, it was on perimeter. These ticks swarmed me and I didn't know where they were coming from. I didn't know that you could shoot their nest to stop them from respawning, so I just kind of sat there running around looking for the exit. Couldn't find it, even though it was like right around the corner. I missed it by a millimeter. I fully died to those things, and just so you know, those are dangerous. Every enemy in the game is dangerous, and you should treat it as such. Now, moving on. I'm not the biggest PvP fan. There are a few PvP games I like and that I find myself constantly coming back to, like the finals. I love the finals. Every once in a while, I'll come back to Call of Duty, but that's about the extent of it. I'm either playing a co-op game with my friends or my brothers, or I'm playing a story game, or I'm playing some sort of offline movement shooter. But usually with those kind of PvP shooter games, I need breaks from them, because I get really frustrated when I'm not winning. I think most people do. But that being said, PvP ain't too bad in Marathon.
The time to kill is almost where it needs to be. There have been some instances where I've died really quickly.
I think that was more due to my own bad positioning and lack of game knowledge or situational awareness than it was the time to kill being too short.
And then there are some times where I break a runner's shield and keep shooting them, and I feel like they're just not going down. So I don't know if the time to kill is too long, or if I'm having latency issues, or maybe it was the fact they were wearing better shields than me. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out.
And the same goes for their gun. Doesn't matter what kind of gun they have strapped to them if you kill them first. Although I will say one big gripe I have about the PvP is that I felt it was too hard to hear enemy footsteps. I know that's a complaint in so many shooter games, especially like Apex and Call of Duty, that you can't hear footsteps coming. There was one match where I loaded in, took out a couple of UESC troops. We were at the first location that we spawned at. We spawned, ran to the first location, and started killing stuff. Not even 2 minutes after we had killed all the troopers, a player was there. He was on top of a building directly above our heads. We had no clue that a player was there, and he took us all out. Oh, dang. Oh, that's right. I didn't bring a backpack. Shit. I'll leave the pistol then. What? Huh? Okay, well that was just lame. Now, I'm not saying I should just instantly know when there are people within my vicinity. I don't want the game to hold my hand, but I think an audio cue would be nice. Another gripe that I have, and I know a lot of people on Twitter are sharing this opinion, the aim assistance and bullet magnetism on mouse and keyboard is a bit overtuned. It's very strong, and it's not subtle at all. As someone who rarely ever uses a controller these days, when I first booted up my first match and played Marathon, I was very confused as to why my aim was snapping to enemies and staying on them consistently. My aim's not normally that good. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to go out and say that if a Marathon dev watches this, let's tone it down a little bit, just a smidge. And I'm not saying get rid of it completely, but this is an extraction shooter, and for that fact alone, you are going to be drawing in more hardcore players who are there for the competitiveness and the shooting elements. And I will say bullet magnetism is one of the many things that make PvP and Destiny 2 so good and feel so good. But in this situation, I think we need to tone it down. I have already seen people on Twitter complaining about the game's movement and that it feels stiff and that it feels slow and that it feels clunky. But then I need to ask them this. You do know you're playing an extraction shooter, right? I don't remember who said it, but I saw a tweet just today, the 24th of April, that games like Destiny and Apex Legends have more fluid and fast-paced movement. And I'm a fan of movement shooters. Those are my bread and butter. But let's be honest, if you want Apex movement, go play Apex. Heck, if you want Apex movement, go play Titanfall 2. Know your history. I never once expected or anticipated this game to have Apex movement. We were told this was an extraction shooter, and we got extraction shooter movement. I don't know what else you can say about that. Even then, there are more fast-paced characters you can play if you don't like the movement. I gravitated more towards Glitch and Locust simply because their kits gave me more freedom of movement and positioning. And I'll say Glitch's slide saved my life on more than one occasions over the past 2 days. So, overall, my first few hours with Marathon were really frustrating. I was struggling to come to terms with how the mechanics worked, and I was growing increasingly frustrated that every run that I ran ended in death. Couldn't figure out if it was my own lack of knowledge in the extraction shooter genre, or if I was simply not good at the game. It got to the point where I had died so much that I completely ran out of funds in the game. I completely ran out of bullets, I ran out of money, of guns, everything. I had nothing. I exhausted all of my corporate loadouts that you can purchase and just drag and drop into your loadout. I ran out of everything. So I decided to give it one more shot, and I went into a match with nothing but my knife. I eventually, and I'll say quite easily, got a hold of both an SMG and an assault rifle. My teammates killed a UESC trooper, and I picked up the loot, and I took that loot with me throughout the rest of the match. I eventually died and I lost that loot, but I did learn that even when I have nothing, no money, no loot, no guns, I can still go into a run and scrap together a loadout and still be effective with it and take it into late game. I think that's really good. It taught me to not be attached to my gear because that gear is just a tool in the game to get a leg up on other players. But eventually I needed a break. So I took a couple hours off and did a mental reset. When I came back to the game a few hours later, I had a much, much better experience. I'm not even sure what happened besides learning not to care too much about my gear. I felt that I understood the pacing of the fights much better. I found that disengaging with a fight, if my positioning allowed it, was a much better choice than to continue peeking an angle that I was taking damage from. I had learned the timing of my healing items a lot better, and I noticed that I could get back into the fight a lot quicker than I originally thought. And also scavenging for healing items wasn't too much of a pain either. I just wish we had some sort of button toggle for switching from the shield items and the health items, because that pop-up menu, in my opinion, is a little clunky, and I don't think it's the most convenient thing in the world. As I played more on my second session of the day, I found myself actually wiping entire teams. I got really familiar with Glitch, who's my favorite runner at the moment, and started positioning myself at angles where players wouldn't have expected. I was using my speed boosts to not only reposition quickly, but also to get my teammates to revive them, and also push up on players and catch them off guard. I found myself extracting more frequently and with better gear. Ended up completely filling my vault space up with gear to the point where I felt like I needed Dado to come over and tell me to get rid of some shit, because I don't need it all. Had a surplus of money and gear. That was my reward for playing better, playing smarter, and learning the game. When I logged off for the night and I laid back down in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about the game. I wish I had stayed up later to keep going. And this morning at the gym, I kept thinking about Marathon and how I wanted to get back in there and do more runs. I'm not an extraction player at all. This isn't my genre of shooter. Let's be clear. Let me be clear. This isn't my bread and butter, but I kept thinking about it. We're only 2 days in and my brain's like, I think I can play a little differently. I think I can do this instead of that. I guess all of this is to just say that, yeah, I think I like Marathon. I think I might even really like it. It's not perfect in any way and still has a long way to go. I mean, like I said earlier, this is an alpha. It's not supposed to be perfect. And I think a lot of gamers, especially the people who are hoping for Marathon to flop because they're mad at Bungie for not giving us Destiny 3, need to understand that this game is still an alpha. It's not trash because it's not fully polished yet. It's not trash because it has clunky movement. It's not even close to being finished yet. And that's okay. Marathon's off to a great start, in my opinion. I think the indicator of a good game, for me, is one where I end my session thinking, hey, that was a lot of fun, and leaves me thinking about the game throughout the rest of my day. Good game leaves me wanting more, and Marathon has left me wanting more. Yeah, I think that's it. The only thing I think I can say now is, thank God the alpha is live until May 6th, because I want to play more. And I'm going to. See you on Tau Ceti 4.